Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished fixing the air recycling unit in Section 7. The Stellar Harmony was a good ship, but she was old and needed constant care. Jake liked that about her. He understood machines better than he understood people most days. The ship was quiet except for the gentle hum of engines and life support systems. Most of the crew was sleeping during the night shift. Jake preferred working these hours when the corridors were empty and he could think clearly about the problems he needed to solve. He was packing up his tools when the emergency alert started, blaring through the ship. Red lights flashed in the hallways as Captain Vextar's voice echoed from every speaker. All senior staff report to the bridge immediately. This is not a drill. Jake had been on the Stellar Harmony for 2 years now, ever since humanity joined the Zephyrian Alliance. He had never heard the captain sound so tense. Something big was happening. He jogged through the curved hallways toward the bridge, passing other crew members hurrying in the same direction. Lisa Bennett caught up with him near the main elevator. She was breathing hard from running. "Do you know what's going on?" she asked. Lisa worked in communications and usually knew about things before everyone else. "No idea," Jake said. "But the captain sounds worried." They stepped onto the bridge together. The large room was buzzing with activity. Alien crew members moved between workstations while data scrolled across multiple screens. Jake still found it amazing to work alongside beings from other worlds. Even after 2 years, Captain Vextar stood at the center of the bridge. He was tall and thin like all Zephyrians, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he examined different displays. When he saw Jake and Lisa arrive, his expression grew even more serious. "We have discovered something unusual," the captain announced to the assembled crew. "Chief Science Officer Krelon will explain." Krelon stepped forward. She was shorter than the captain, but her movements were quick and precise. Her voice had a musical quality that Jake always found pleasant to listen to. 30 minutes ago, our sensors detected a large object drifting in space approximately 1 million kilometers from our current position, she began. Initial scans indicate it is a vessel of unknown design and origin. The main screen lit up with an image that made everyone gasp. The ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Stellar Harmony. Its surface was covered in smooth curves and geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in slow, hypnotic rhythms. "How old is it?" Dr. Alex Turner asked. He was the senior human scientist on board and always asked the right questions. "Our dating method suggests it has been drifting for at least 50,000 years, Krelon replied. "Possibly much longer. The materials are unlike anything in our databases." Security Commander Thaxel moved closer to the screen. He was the largest member of the crew, with thick arms and a scarred face. That told stories of many battles. His deep voice rumbled when he spoke. This could be dangerous. Ancient ships often contain traps or weapons designed to protect their secrets. My people have lost entire exploration teams to such discoveries. Captain Vextar nodded slowly. The commander speaks wisdom. Throughout galactic history, curiosity about unknown artifacts has led to disasters. Entire star systems have been destroyed by things that seemed harmless at first. Jake stared at the image of the mysterious ship. Every line and curve seemed perfect, as if it had been designed by artists instead of engineers. The pulsing lights created patterns that were almost beautiful. He found himself wondering how the propulsion systems worked and what kind of power source could keep those lights running for 50,000 years. What do we know about the civilization that built it? Lisa asked. Krelon manipulated her controls, and more data appeared on the screens. Nothing. The design matches no known architectural styles. The energy signatures are completely foreign. Even the materials appear to be constructed at the molecular level, using techniques we do not understand. Which is exactly why we must be extremely careful, Captain Vextar said firmly. I am implementing full containment protocols. No one will board that vessel. No one will make physical contact with its hull. We will observe from a safe distance and collect data using remote sensors only. The alien crew members all nodded in agreement. Jake could see the fear in their eyes when they looked at the image of the derelict ship. They had all heard stories of exploration teams that never returned, of plagues that spread between worlds, of weapons that activated when disturbed, but Jake felt something different when he looked at the ship. Yes, it was mysterious and potentially dangerous. But it was also the most beautiful piece of engineering he had ever seen. The way the lights moved across its surface suggested systems that were still active after all these years. The graceful curves spoke of a technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Sir, Jake said, stepping forward. If we're going to study it properly, we might need to get closer. Remote sensors can only tell us so much. Captain Vextar's large eyes fixed on Jake with obvious concern. Engineer Morrison, I understand your curiosity, but you must understand the risks. My species has explored the galaxy for over 10,000 years. We have learned through bitter experience that ancient artifacts are never as harmless as they appear. The captain is correct, Thaxel added. I have personally witnessed the aftermath of first contact situations gone wrong. Ships that seemed dead suddenly came alive when approached. Scanning beams that were actually weapons. Technology that infected other systems like a virus. But think about what we might learn, Jake said. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. New propulsion methods, advanced materials, maybe even contact with a completely unknown civilization. Or it could be our death, Creelon said quietly. The builders of that ship disappeared 50,000 years ago. We do not know why. Perhaps they destroyed themselves with their own technology. Perhaps something else destroyed them. Either way, we should not assume their legacy is safe. Captain Vextar raised one of his hands for silence. The decision is made. We will maintain a distance of no less than 10,000 kilometers. All data collection will be performed using remote methods only. Under no circumstances will anyone make direct contact with that vessel or its systems. The bridge crew began preparing for the long-range study mission. Jake watched them work while part of his mind kept returning to the image of the beautiful, mysterious ship. He understood the captain's caution, but he also felt frustrated by the limitations it would place on their investigation. As the meeting broke up and crew members returned to their stations, Jake found himself wondering what secrets the ancient ship might hold, and whether they would ever be brave enough to unlock them. 3 days of remote scanning had produced more questions than answers. Jake watched from the observation deck as the alien ship drifted silently in space, its lights still pulsing in those same mysterious patterns. The science team had tried every type of sensor they had, but the readings made no sense. The hull appears to be made of crystalline structures, Creelon reported during the morning briefing. But our scanners cannot penetrate more than a few centimeters below the surface. Whatever lies inside remains hidden. Captain Vextar studied the data with obvious frustration. His forearms moved restlessly as he examined screen after screen. Of incomplete information. What about the energy source? Have we identified what powers those lights? Negative, Creelon replied. The energy signatures are unlike anything we have encountered. The power source appears to be contained within the ship itself, but we cannot determine its nature or location. Dr. Alex Turner leaned forward in his chair. Captain, I think we need to accept that remote scanning has reached its limits. If we want real answers, someone needs to go aboard that ship. The bridge fell silent. Every alien crew member turned to look at the human scientist with expressions of shock and concern. Security Commander Thaxil was the first to speak. That would be extremely dangerous, Dr. Turner. We have no idea what systems might activate. When living beings enter the vessel, the risk is too great. But we're not learning anything this way, Alex insisted. We've been studying it for 3 days, and we know less now than when we started. The scanners can't penetrate the hull. We don't understand the energy source, and we have no idea what the ship's purpose was. Jake had been thinking the same thing. He understood the aliens' caution, but their careful approach was getting them nowhere. The ship was clearly still functional after 50,000 years, which meant its builders had created something incredible. They deserved to know what it was. I agree with Dr. Turner, Jake said. We need to get closer, maybe even go inside. Captain Vextar's large eyes widened with alarm. Engineer Morrison, I cannot allow such a risk. The safety protocols exist for good reasons. Too many exploration teams have been lost to unknown technologies. But sir, Lisa Bennett added, what if this ship contains knowledge that could help both our species? What if the builders left something that could solve our energy problems or improve our medical technology? We might be passing up the greatest discovery in galactic history. The captain was quiet for a long moment, his hands moving in complex patterns that Jake had learned meant deep thought. Finally, he spoke. If we proceed with a boarding mission, it will be under the strictest possible conditions. Full environmental suits, remote monitoring, and immediate evacuation at the first sign of danger. The away team will be small and will follow every safety protocol exactly. Thaxil stepped forward. I will lead the security team. We will establish a safe perimeter and scan every surface before anyone moves forward. I should go too, Krelon said. The team will need a science officer to analyze whatever we find. And I'll handle any technical issues, Jake added quickly. If there are systems that need to be understood, you'll need an engineer. Captain Vextar looked at each of them carefully. Very well. But I want to be absolutely clear about the rules. No one touches anything directly. All analysis will be done with scanning equipment only. Any direct contact with the ship's systems is forbidden. Is this understood? Everyone nodded, but Jake felt a small knot of frustration in his stomach. How could they really understand the ship's technology if they couldn't interact with it properly? Still, he knew this was the only chance he would get to see the inside of the mysterious vessel. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in the shuttle bay wearing a bulky environmental suit. The suit's systems hummed quietly around him as he checked his tools and scanners. Lisa Bennett was making final adjustments to the communication equipment, while the alien crew members performed their own preparations. Thaxil carried enough weapons to fight a small war. His massive frame looked even more intimidating in the heavy security suit he wore. Remember, he said to everyone, we stay together at all times. No one wanders off to investigate anything alone. Krelon had packed so many scientific instruments that she could barely move. Her suit's computer displays showed readings from dozens of different sensors. The energy levels are actually increasing as we get closer, she reported. The ship may be responding to our presence. The shuttle ride to the derelict ship took 20 minutes. Jake pressed his face against the small window and watched the alien vessel grow larger and larger. Up close, he could see details that hadn't been visible from the stellar harmony. The crystalline hull was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living things. Lights moved beneath the surface in waves of soft color. It's beautiful, Lisa whispered over the comm system. It's dangerous, Thaxil corrected. Beauty and danger often go together in the universe. The shuttle docked with the alien ship using magnetic clamps. Jake felt a slight vibration through the hull as the connection was made. Krelon S instruments immediately began registering new readings. The ship's energy output just increased by 30%, she reported. It definitely knows we're here. Captain Vextar's voice crackled over the radio from the stellar harmony. "Away team, proceed with extreme caution. Any sign of hostile activity, and you evacuate immediately." Thaxel activated the airlock and stepped through first, his weapons ready. Jake followed with Lisa and Krelon close behind. The interior of the ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as the hull, but here they glowed with soft inner light. The corridors were wide and graceful, with smooth curves instead of sharp angles. Strange symbols covered every surface, pulsing gently in rhythm with the ship's other lights. "Atmosphere is breathable," Krelon reported after checking her instruments. "Temperature is comfortable, but I'm detecting unusual energy fields throughout the ship." They moved slowly through the corridors, scanning everything they could reach. Jake noticed that the lights seemed to brighten as they approached and dim as they moved away. It was as if the ship was watching them, responding to their presence. "The patterns on the walls appear to be some kind of control system," Krelon sighed, pointing her scanner at a particularly complex arrangement of symbols. "But I cannot determine their function without direct interaction." Jake stared at the glowing symbols. They seemed to pulse with invitation, as if they wanted to be touched. His engineering instincts told him that this was technology designed to be used, not just observed from a distance. But he remembered his promise to the captain: no touching, no direct contact. Just observation and scanning. It was going to be a very long day. 4 hours into their exploration, Jake was getting more frustrated by the minute. They had walked through countless corridors filled with incredible technology, but all they could do was look and scan. Every surface seemed designed to respond to touch, but the strict no-contact rules meant they were missing everything important. "These control panels are clearly meant to be interactive," Jake said as they entered what appeared to be the ship's main control room. The space was enormous, with crystalline walls that rose up into darkness above. Dozens of glowing interfaces surrounded a central platform where streams of light flowed like water. Krelon waved her scanner over the nearest panel. "The energy readings suggest these systems are in standby mode. They appear to be waiting for some kind of activation signal." "Probably touch activation," Jake muttered. He could see the logic in the design. The surfaces were smooth and inviting, positioned at exactly the right height for hands to rest comfortably. Everything about this room said it was built for beings who used their hands to control their technology. Thaxel kept his weapons ready as he examined the room's entrances. "I count 7 doorways leading from this chamber. The ship is much larger than we thought. We could spend weeks exploring it properly." "Weeks we do not have," came Captain Vextar's voice through their units. "You have been aboard for 4 hours. How much longer do you need?" Krelon checked her instruments again. "The ship's energy levels keep rising the longer we stay. It has increased by 50% since we arrived. I am concerned about what might happen if the levels continue to climb." Jake watched the lights flowing across the central platform. The patterns were hypnotic and seemed to follow mathematical sequences that his engineering mind could almost understand. There was definitely intelligence behind this design, but it was unlike anything humans or Zephyrians had ever created. "Captain," Lisa's voice came over the comm, "I'm picking up what might be communication signals from the ship. Very faint, but they seem to be directed at us." "What kind of signals?" Captain Vextar asked immediately. "I'm not sure. The patterns are complex, but they repeat every few minutes. It's almost like the ship is trying to talk to us." Jake moved closer to the central platform. The flowing lights seemed to pulse brighter as he approached. He had worked with enough computer systems to recognize basic interface design, and everything about this platform screamed that it was waiting for input. "Jake, stay back from that thing," Thaxel warned. "We don't know what it might do." But Jake was already studying the light patterns more carefully. They reminded him of the neural network diagrams he had seen in computer programming courses. The ship wasn't just trying to communicate, it was trying to make a connection. A direct connection. "I think this is a neural interface," he said suddenly. "The ship wants to link directly with whoever operates it." Creelon spun around, her scanner beeping frantically. That would explain the energy increases. The ship has been preparing itself for mental contact ever since we arrived. "Neural interfaces are extremely dangerous," Thaxel said firmly. "They can damage the mind or allow hostile programs to take control of the user. Under no circumstances should anyone attempt such contact." Jake knew the security commander was right to be cautious. Neural interfaces were rare and usually caused more problems than they solved. But looking at the beautiful patterns of light flowing across the platform, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was different. This wasn't a crude attempt to hack someone's brain. This was an invitation to partnership. "Away team, report your status," Captain Vextara's voice crackled through static. "We are detecting massive energy buildup throughout the alien vessel." "The ship is definitely responding to our presence," Creelon replied. "But I do not believe it is hostile. The energy patterns suggest preparation rather than aggression." Jake stepped closer to the platform despite Thaxel's warning look. The lights seemed to reach toward him, creating new patterns that shifted and danced in response to his movement. His engineering instincts told him that this system was safe, designed to help rather than harm. "Jake, get away from there," Lisa called out. Remember what the captain said about touching anything. But Jake was tired of following rules that made no sense. They had found the most advanced technology in galactic history, and they were being forced to study it like museum visitors looking at displays behind glass. How could they understand something this sophisticated without actually interacting with it? "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts," he said, more to himself than to the others. His hand moved toward his helmet's release catch. "Murison, do not remove your environmental suit," Thaxel ordered. "That is a direct violation of safety protocols." Jake paused with his hand on the helmet release. He knew he was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But he also knew that this might be their only chance to unlock the ship's secrets. The aliens would never approve a second boarding mission if this one ended without real discoveries. "The ship isn't dangerous," he said, surprised by how certain he felt. "It's been waiting for someone to make contact. Real contact, not just scanning from a distance." "You do not know that," Creelon said urgently. "The builders of this ship disappeared 50,000 years ago. We have no idea what happened to them or why they left this vessel behind." Jake looked around the control room one more time. Every surface glowed with invitation. Every system waited patiently for activation. This wasn't the bridge of a warship or the laboratory of mad scientists. This was something beautiful, something meant to be shared. He removed his helmet. The ship's atmosphere was clean and warm against his skin. It carried a faint scent like flowers after rain. Nothing happened to him. No poison gas, no mind control. Rays, no sudden death. Just clean air and the sound of his own breathing. "Jake, put your helmet back on immediately," Lisa pleaded. But Jake was already reaching toward the central platform. The lights seemed to pulse with excitement as his bare hand approached the crystalline surface. Every instinct told him this was right. This was what the ship had been waiting for. His palm touched the warm crystal. The moment of contact sent a surge of sensation through his entire body. The lights in the room exploded into brilliant patterns that flowed like liquid fire through every surface. The ship's hum changed to a deeper, more musical tone that seemed to resonate in his bones. And then Jake felt the presence in his mind. Not invading, not controlling, but gently asking permission to communicate. The ship was alive, and it had been waiting so very long for someone brave enough to say hello. Behind him, his teammates were shouting into their comm units, calling for immediate evacuation. But Jake could barely hear them over the incredible sensation of touching minds with something vast and ancient and wonderfully alien. The real adventure was just beginning. Jake felt the ship's mind touch his own with gentle curiosity. It wasn't like talking to another person. Instead, it was like having thoughts that weren't quite his own flowing through his head. The presence was old, incredibly old, but also kind and patient. "Hello," the voice said inside his mind, though it wasn't really a voice at all. "I have been waiting so long for someone to speak with me." Around him, his teammates were panicking. Thaxel was shouting orders into his comm unit, while Creelon frantically scanned Jake with every instrument she had. Lisa was begging him to step away from the platform, but Jake could barely hear them. The mental connection with the ship was overwhelming, but not frightening. "What are you?" Jake thought back to the presence. "I am the keeper of the ancients," came the reply. "I was created by the builders to preserve their knowledge and share it with those who prove themselves worthy." Images flowed through Jake's mind. He saw a civilization of beings that looked almost like tall, graceful humans, but with skin that shimmered like starlight. They lived on worlds covered in crystal cities that grew like living things. Their technology was so advanced that they had learned to shape matter with their thoughts and travel between dimensions. "The builders," Jake whispered aloud, though he wasn't sure if he meant to speak. "My creators transcended physical existence long ago," the keeper explained. "But before they departed this reality, they built vessels like me to serve as bridges between their knowledge and younger civilizations who might one day be ready to inherit their gifts." More images filled Jake's mind. He saw dozens of ships like this one scattered across the galaxy, all waiting patiently for contact. He understood now why the remote scanning had been useless. The ships were designed to respond only to direct neural interface, to beings brave enough to make actual contact despite the risks. "Emergency evacuation protocol activated," Captain Vextar's voice blared through the comm system. "All personnel return to the shuttle immediately. Morrison, step away from that interface now." But Jake couldn't step away, even if he wanted to. The connection was too fascinating, too important. Through the Keeper's memories, he was learning about technologies that could solve every problem facing both human and alien civilizations. "Your companions are afraid," the Keeper observed gently. "This is why I have waited so long. Most species develop caution as they grow wise. They learn to avoid risks, to study from a distance, to protect themselves from the unknown. But caution alone cannot unlock the treasures I carry." Jake saw through the ship's sensors as other vessels had approached over the millennia. The Zephyrians had found ships like this one before, but they had always maintained their careful distance, scanning and analyzing but never making the direct contact necessary to activate the Keeper's systems. "They think you're dangerous," Jake said. "I understand their fear. Throughout galactic history, first contact with unknown technology has often led to disaster. Ancient weapons, deadly plagues, mind-controlling parasites. The caution of your alien friends has kept their species alive for thousands of years." Jake felt the ship's systems coming online around him. Power flowed through crystalline networks that had been dormant for ages. The air circulation improved, gravity systems activated, and lights brightened throughout the vessel. But none of it felt threatening. Instead, it felt like a house waking up to welcome visitors. "But you're not dangerous, are you?" Jake asked. "I am what my builders made me to be. A repository of knowledge, a teacher, a gift to those bold enough to accept it. The builders specifically designed me to respond only to direct contact, because they wanted to share their legacy with species who possessed both intelligence and courage." Through the neural link, Jake began to understand some of the ship's technologies. Advanced propulsion systems that could cross the galaxy in days instead of years. Medical devices that could repair cellular damage and extend lifespans by centuries. Energy sources so clean and efficient They could power entire star systems without pollution or waste. "This is incredible," Jake breathed. "Why haven't you shared this with the other species who found you?" "Because they never made contact. They observed, they scanned, they analyzed, but they never reached out to touch me." The builders were very specific about this requirement. Only those willing to risk direct connection would prove themselves ready for the gifts I carry. Jake realized that his human nature, the thing that made the alien so nervous about his species, was exactly what the builders had been looking for. Humans were explorers and risk-takers by nature. They touched things they probably shouldn't touch and asked questions they probably shouldn't ask. "Jake, you need to break the connection now." Dr. Alex Turner's voice came through the comm. "Your vital signs are showing unusual patterns. We don't know what that thing is doing to your brain." But Jake felt better than he had ever felt in his life. The Keeper's knowledge was expanding his understanding of engineering and physics in ways he had never imagined possible. He could see solutions to problems that had puzzled human scientists for decades. "I'm fine," he called out to his worried teammates. "Better than fine. The ship isn't hostile. It's trying to help us. Contamination protocols require immediate medical quarantine," Thaxel announced. "Morrison, you have been exposed to unknown alien influences. You cannot be trusted to make rational decisions." The Keeper's presence in Jake's mind felt amused by the security commander's concerns. "He assumes I am trying to control you. But control was never my purpose. I am here to teach, to share, to offer gifts to those ready to receive them." "What do you want from me?" Jake asked. "Nothing but partnership. Your species has the curiosity and courage that my builders valued. You are willing to take risks that others fear. This makes you ideal candidates to inherit the knowledge I carry." Jake felt the ship sharing more information with him. Star charts showing the locations of other Keeper vessels. Technical specifications for technologies that could revolutionize both human and alien civilizations. Most importantly, he sensed that the ship genuinely wanted to help, to share its treasures with beings who would use them wisely. "The others won't understand," Jake said. "They'll think you've taken control of my mind. Then you must show them that you remain yourself, that my gifts enhance rather than replace your humanity." This is why the builders required direct contact. They wanted to work with species who could maintain their identity even while accepting alien knowledge. Jake took a deep breath and turned to face his teammates. Lisa's face was pale with worry behind her helmet visor. Creolan's instruments were beeping frantically as they detected the energy flowing between Jake and the ship. Thaxel had his weapons drawn and was clearly preparing for the worst. "It's okay," Jake said calmly. "I'm still me. The ship isn't controlling me or hurting me. It's trying to teach us things that could help everyone." He could see in their expressions that they didn't believe him. They thought he was contaminated, compromised, possibly dying. But Jake knew he had to find a way to convince them that this first contact was the beginning of something wonderful, not the end of everything they knew. Jake kept his hand on the crystalline interface as he tried to explain what was happening to his frightened teammates. The Keeper's presence in his mind felt warm and reassuring, like having a wise friend offering gentle advice. "Listen to me," Jake said calmly. "The ship isn't dangerous. It's been waiting for someone to make contact for 50,000 years. The beings who built it wanted to share their knowledge with species brave enough to reach out. That's exactly what something controlling your mind would make you say," Thaxel replied, his weapons still drawn. "Step away from that interface immediately, or I will be forced to remove you by force." "You can't remove me," Jake said. "Not without damaging the connection, and this connection is too important to break." Through the neural link, the Keeper began sharing more detailed information about its creator's technology. Jake's understanding of physics and engineering expanded rapidly as concepts that had seemed impossible became clear and simple. He could see how to build engines that folded space instead of pushing through it. He understood how to create materials that were stronger than anything currently known to science. "Jake, your brain activity is showing patterns we've never seen before," Dr. Alex Turner reported through the com. "Whatever that thing is doing to you, it's changing how your mind works." "It's not changing me," Jake said. "It's teaching me. There's a difference." Lisa stepped closer despite Thaxel's warning gestures. "Jake, you've been connected to that thing for almost an hour. How do we know you're still you and not some kind of alien puppet?" Jake smiled at her through the helmet visor. "Because I'm still worried about the air recycler in Section 7. It's been making that grinding noise again, and I think the bearing assembly needs to be replaced. Also, you still owe me 10 credits from our poker game last week." Lisa's expression softened slightly. Those were definitely details only the real Jake would remember and care about. "The Keeper isn't replacing my thoughts," Jake continued. "It's adding to them. I'm still me, but now I also understand things I never could have figured out on my own." The ship's lights pulsed brighter as the Keeper prepared to demonstrate its gifts. Through the neural connection, Jake felt the ancient intelligence accessing the vessel's manufacturing systems. Metal and crystal began to grow from the walls like living things, forming complex devices right before their eyes. "What is it doing?" Creolon asked, her scanner beeping frantically as it tried to analyze the new constructions. "Making tools," Jake replied. "Medical scanners that can detect diseases before symptoms appear. Communication devices that can translate any language instantly. Power sources that will never run out of energy." One of the newly formed devices floated gently toward Creolon. She backed away in alarm, but Jake held up his free hand. "It's safe," he said. "The Keeper wants to prove that its intentions are good. That scanner will show you things about your own biology that your medical science hasn't discovered yet." Creolon looked at the floating device with obvious fear and curiosity warring in her expression. "How can you be certain it's not a weapon disguised as a medical tool?" "Because I can feel the Keeper's intentions through the connection. It genuinely wants to help. The builders created these ships specifically to share their knowledge with younger civilizations." Dr. Alex Turner had been listening carefully to the conversation. As a scientist, he understood the value of what Jake was describing, even if he was worried about the risks. "Jake, if what you're saying is true, this could change everything. But we need proof that you're still in control of your own mind." Jake thought for a moment, then grinned. "Ask me something only I would know. Something embarrassing that I've never told anyone else." Alex considered this. "All right. What happened during your first week aboard the Stellar Harmony that you made me promise never to mention?" Jake's grin widened. "I got lost trying to find the bathroom and accidentally walked into Captain Vextar's private quarters while he was meditating. He was floating upside down in the middle of the room, and I thought he was having a medical emergency. I tried to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation before he could explain that Zephyrians meditate in zero gravity." Despite the tension of the situation, Alex laughed. "That's definitely something only you would remember. And definitely something you'd be embarrassed about." The Keeper's amusement rippled through Jake's mind at the memory. "Your species' tendency toward immediate action, even in unfamiliar situations, is precisely what my builders valued. Other species would have observed the meditation ritual from a distance and tried to understand it intellectually. You saw what appeared to be a problem and immediately tried to help. But that almost caused a diplomatic incident," Jake pointed out. "And yet your intentions were good. You acted to help rather than to harm. This is the quality the builders sought in their inheritors." Captain Vextar's voice crackled through the comm system. "Away team, you have been aboard that vessel for 6 hours. I am ordering immediate evacuation. Whatever that ship is doing to Engineer Morrison poses too great a risk to continue." Jake felt the keeper's sadness at the captain's words. The ancient intelligence had hoped for a different reception, but it understood the alien's fear. "The keeper will let me disconnect whenever I choose," Jake said. "But Captain, you need to understand what we found here. This isn't just one ship. There are dozens of them scattered across the galaxy, all waiting for species brave enough to make contact. The builders left them as gifts for civilizations ready to inherit their knowledge. Gifts that require direct neural interface," Thaxil said suspiciously. "How convenient for them." "It's not about convenience," Jake replied. "It's about commitment. The builders wanted to share their technology with species willing to take risks, to reach out and touch the unknown instead of studying it from a safe distance. They believed that only such species would use their gifts wisely." Through the connection, Jake felt the keeper preparing to release him from the interface. The ancient intelligence knew it had planted the seeds of a new partnership between its kind and humanity. Whether that partnership grew would depend on how well Jake could convince others of what he had learned. "I'm going to disconnect now," Jake announced. "But this isn't goodbye. The keeper will be here whenever we're ready to learn more." Jake slowly removed his hand from the crystalline surface. The ship's lights dimmed to their previous levels, but they didn't go dark. The keeper was still active, still waiting, still hoping. Jake turned to face his teammates, his mind buzzing with new knowledge, but his personality completely unchanged. "We need to go back to the ship and make some reports. Captain Vexstar is going to want to hear about this, and it's going to take a while to explain everything." As they walked back toward the shuttle, Jake could feel the keeper watching them. Go with patient hope. The first contact had been made. Now it remained to be seen whether humanity would prove worthy of the gifts they had been offered. Behind them, the ancient ship continued its gentle pulsing, no longer alone in the darkness, but finally connected to minds that might understand its purpose.